Yeah, Robert misses mate in 1 clickbait. Absolutely. Make it a clip. You'd be surprised how often I miss mate in 1. Actually, to be precise, I'm just slow to notice it. I don't think I ever really miss it. It's too slow. Alright, so bishop c5. This position was reached in Nakamura versus Munson in the year 2000, I think. I think it was a US Open. And Nakamura was a really low-rated player at that time, I think, but still good. And in this game, it was black to play. And let's just try to decide what black's best move could be. Not even talking about like what exchanges there are, just what's the best move. Bishop b6, interesting move. Castling is actually a blunder, so let's talk about what's wrong with castling. Anyone see a tactic here after castling? I'll play it on the board just so we can see. Knight c6, followed by, let's pretend dc6, because that's usually how they'll capture here. Yeah, absolutely. The bishop on c5 is hanging. And because the queen was hanging, they didn't have time to play like this. So castling is actually a blunder. And I think the fact that castling is a blunder really informed black's decision here. But let's see what else we could possibly play here. Bishop b6 actually defends against it. But it's weird to move your bishop twice, right? I think people usually don't like such things. Moving the pieces over and over again in the opening. Sometimes it's necessary, but frequently it's not necessary and not good. So what else can we do? Is there any other option, or is it just bishop b6? Obama might change. If you always play bishop b6 but you don't know why, you definitely should stop. You can start again when you know why you're playing bishop b6. Okay, so you can take on d4 in 2 ways. That's good. Is there any other move that's not trading? Let's try to push the candidate moves envelope here. d6, okay, another good candidate move. Maybe one more, I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Is there even one more move to consider? I'll just highlight them. So right now, we've eliminated knight c6, so we're considering just these moves. We did not say pawn b6, so we can definitely talk about that. If we're considering moving bishops twice, I'd say we should also consider bishop b4. So now we're probably ready to analyze. So what do you guys think is the first move that we should look at, the most interesting move? As if we were in a real game. Like, what's the first thing we would analyze? After knight c6, which we found was a blunder. All right, knight d4. So we can analyze that first. So if we play knight d4, bishop d4 is forced. Now what? Is bishop d4 the most critical move here as well? Just go to Tradesville, everybody's gone. Try to get a draw against Nakamura, the rising star. Actually, maybe Nakamura was pretty good at that point, I'm not sure. Okay, so we're suggesting bishop d4 here. This is exactly how the game went. And I would say that this is losing, which is a strong statement, but I think losing. Queen e7, let's see. I think I would play something like bishop e2 against queen e7. Just pass the turn. And white just has a little bit more space, so I think white is slightly better. And we could also quickly look at the other ones. Like in this position, I think after bishop b4, they're going to take this, and then castle, check, and then play knight e2? No. Probably something like bishop d4. I think some kind of move like this would be better for white, just because black's pieces are not that coordinated. Their pawn structure is a little worse for the endgame. I think actually there's a similar issue with knight c6. I'm sorry, with bishop b6. So I think that these moves, they were all kind of unsatisfactory to this guy Munson. And the problem with pawn d6 is that they're going to get tripled pawns, which is generally very unpleasant. So another thing is that after bishop b6, if we take with the light square bishop, we're going to be forfeiting the center in some sense. Like, this is debatable whether this is good or not. I'm not sure if I feel strongly enough about the move e5 to play it. It does seem really unpleasant for black, because you can take this and double their pawns, right? But then where do you put your knight now? I'm not that convinced that this is okay, just for concrete reasons. Although I haven't analyzed it. I haven't done any computer analysis on this stuff. It's just whatever comes to my mind. Hoping to learn something from you guys too. So, in the game, Munson just traded everything. He went straight to Tradesville. And after queen takes d4, he played queen e7. No, he played d6. I don't have the full game here. I'm just going to play whatever I remember for you guys. So I think he played d6. And just to illustrate the issue, and we're going to talk about what exactly his mistake was in a second. What's wrong with castling here? Anyone? He's actually not trading into a losing endgame. He doesn't even see the endgame. You'll see. He didn't even reach. But first, we have to see what's wrong with this move. Castling. Yeah, so e5. And at this point, there are only two options for black, and I think they're obvious. So knight h5, which runs into either g4, which just wins a clean piece. This was my first instinct. Or even stronger, bishop e2. We're going to attack their king. They have to play g6, and then we're just going to wreck their whole existence. It turns out that this position is worse than being down a piece for a pawn. So there is a third option, but I think it's deplorable. So we're going to get to that. I think knight e8 is the most serious option. You could also play rook e8 or queen e7 if you're really nitpicky. But if you play rook e8, you're definitely going to lose a piece. Thanks for the cheer, Elena. Appreciate it. So after rook e8, castling, the knight is trapped. Like if you go on g4, we take it. If you go on h5, we play g4. If you play queen e7, it's not as depressing, but it's still pretty bad. You end up on e8 anyway. So let's just analyze knight e8, which is maybe the most flexible move, somewhat ironically. So after knight e8, this position is just like one that was played in, I think, 1936 between Korchmar and Polyak. I'll put it in the chat if you guys want to search for it. Korchmar, if I can spell, and Polyak. I think it's 1936. Sometime between the world wars. And this game has the same situation with a queen in the center, a pawn on e5, and a knight on e8. And this structure, basically there's a known winning plan for, and if you're strong you can execute it. Yeah. So for that reason, Munson played d6, which is good. Actually, it's not going to be a pawn storm. A pawn storm is way too slow, and you can't maneuver your pawns well enough. It's just going to be a rook lift and piece attack on the king after knight e8. So he played d6, and Nakamura just castled. And this actually also prevents castling, which forced Munson to play queen e7. After castling, e5, you run into the same problem. You're going to at least lose a pawn here. That's the best you can do. So for that reason, he played queen e7. And here, actually, White's initiative has almost run dry. Probably Munson saw to this point from the beginning and was like, okay, I'm good, I'm going to castle. But Nakamura found this great move, bishop b5 check. And the onslaught just never stopped. After c6, he would play the move bishop to e2 and win the d6 pawn, which is really outstanding. I had a hard time seeing that the first time. And after bishop d7, he took, and you can't take with the knight because the g7 pawn's hanging, so he played queen takes. And after e5, it was a total wash. They had to take and do a lot of blocking, and then Nakamura played another outstanding move, queen a5. You guys can review this game if you want to get all the details. But the gist of it is that if we played queen b5, they would block with tempo. But queen a5 has an insidious threat that prevents castling. In the game they played b6, but if they castle, they actually lose their queen. And this is because the queen is on a5. It covers the b4 square, where the queen could otherwise have gone. So this is just lost. There's one last resource. They could play b6, but after rook e7, pawn a5, rook c7, this is a lost endgame. So, yeah, Nakamura savagery right here. Got to give it to the guy. He was good. So after b6, Nakamura played queen a4, if I remember correctly. And after king f8, it's already very clear that white is doing good. Because if you ruin their castling, you at least have compensation for a pawn. And here he's not down. So black is just clearly worse. And so he played rook he1. I'm just going to show you because it's a fast finish. Knight e4, Tradesville. And here there's no good move for black. So they played queen g5 in a fit of rage or something. And after f4 they resigned. All this was actually a logical consequence of these two exchanges in a row that we just looked at in the beginning. So we're going to go back to that moment. Knight takes d4, followed by bishop takes d4, was the losing moment of the game. There was no respite after this. And the reason, if we just have to put it in words, is that all these trades wind up with a white piece on d4, which is creating some threats, and so white has the initiative. So one situation in which you don't want to exchange too much is when it gives your opponent the initiative, where they can attack you as a result of your exchanges. So this can happen because you exchange the wrong pieces, or it can also happen, actually in the last game we saw, it happened because they avoided exchanges. So in order to avoid an attack, they had to trade their bishops. In this example, they traded too readily, and it gave the initiative over for a different reason. Because in the end, it was just a white piece standing there on a good square, d4. So you guys could go over this game in the future if you want to see more about how awesome Nakamura plays in this game. Yeah, recapturing with tempo is great, have to agree.